Hello, dear Polymer Clay enthusiasts. I'm Michaela from Learn Polymer Clay, and I'm back with more inspiration for work with clay. In today's tutorial, I want to show you an idea on how to make a layered clay pendant that I finished with UV resin. And I hope that you will like this idea and use it in your work with clay. So let's dive in. This is the pendant that I'm going to demonstrate in the tutorial. And here's another idea of how you can use the same technique with Cernit Neon Pink. And I've also used scrap clay from the previous project that it's been mixed, and I've got a dark violet. So I'm working with Premo accents, Peacock and Violet. I've properly conditioned the clay, and I passed the clay through the setting number 3 of my Atlas pasta machine, 0 being the largest setting of my pasta machine. Then I'm using a floral rubber stamp, and I've put it on top of the Peacock layer of polymer clay, and I've cut out the floral shape, and then I just used some metal leaf in silver color to decorate this layer of clay. And then you'll just have to use your craft knife and your fingers to remove the excess of leaf. Of course, I encourage you to keep and store these tiny bits of silver leaf that you can use for other projects. And then I just applied the peacock layer cut out in the floral shape with the metal leaf sandwiched between the two layers of clay. So I flipped this floral cutout shape, and then I've used the same floral rubber stamp to impress a floral pattern into the clay, and I want this pattern to be very embossed. So I had to press again in some areas where I didn't get the desired definition the first time, and then you'll just have to use a sharp rigid blade to cut out and shave this textured clay. And we are going to put this aside because we are going to use these textured shavings to decorate all around the clay piece. I'm going to do this step several times because I want to have several cut out shavings to decorate the piece. And of course you can play with the colors. You can use several colors of clay. So again, I've applied the same floral rubber stamp and a lot of pressure. And again, I'm using the rigid blade to shave off these textured areas, and I'm starting to have an effect like a hidden magic effect. And I intend to have an area that is decorated with with Peacock clay, and I want also to have the metal leaf showing through, and of course I want the violet base to be visible as well. So I would say that the upper part of the flower is closer to what I'm aiming for. And in my opinion, even these tiny scrapings could be interesting to decorate other projects. Now I'm pretty happy with the look of the piece. And then I'm just going to use some teal ink and the same flower stamp, and I am going to ink a flower design on top of this flower pattern. I'm not going to press on the stamp to texture the piece like I did in the previous step. I'm just going to ink a flower pattern on top. So as you can see, I'm just pressing very slightly, and I'm going to use this stamp and the ink to stamp the same floral pattern all around this central flower. In my piece, these inked decorations were not really visible in the end because I've used the peacock shavings to decorate the piece, and I slightly applied them on top of these ink decorations. But you could play with the color of the ink, and you could um, be more careful. I don't know if you want these inked floral parts to be visible in the final piece. And now it's just like arranging the pieces of a puzzle. You just have to take the shavings and move them around and decide where you would want to press them into the clay and decorate your piece. So I'm gently pressing them into the clay when I'm happy with the look. And I'm very careful not to leave fingerprints on top of the design, of course. And then I've just used the same flower stamp, and this time I pressed it into the peacock layer of clay, and I'm using the same ridging blade to shave the central part of the flower, because I want to have a more defined center for the flower in the middle of the design. And then you'll just have to trim off the excess clay, And in order to create a beautiful shape for your pendant, you can use cutters, or you can use the flexible blade. And I wanted to show you that you can use this idea of such textured scrapings and decorate all kind of pieces. I'm using the flexible blade to cut out an interesting shape for my pendant. You can use cutters, or you can use a template, or of course you can use the flexible blade and trim off the clay until you're happy with the look of your pendant. And as always, I encourage you to use your dotting tools and add more interest to your pieces. Don't forget to smooth off the edges and make sure that the look of the back of the piece looks nice as well. For the moment, I'm not very concerned with the look of the back of the piece because I intend to use some Peacock clay passed on the setting number 6 of my pasta machine, and I will make a back and in the same time a border for the piece. But first I'm using the same rubber stamp and I'm texturing a floral pattern on the clay, and this is going to be the back of the piece. So I'm going to flip this layer of clay I'm checking to see if I like the shape of the piece, especially because it's a shape that I freeform cut with the flexible blade. So I decided to trim off some clay, and I'm happier with the look of the piece now. I'm smoothing off the edges again. And then I just put the pendant on top of the textured layer of Peacock clay. And again, I'm going to use the flexible blade, and I'm cutting slightly beneath the pendant because I want to have enough clay to make the border for the pendant in the same time. So I'm making the back and the border. And in order to make the border on one side, I just decided to lift the clay upwards and just press it into the base. But first I'm making sure that I have the desired length to be able to cover the width of the piece. And on the other side, I decided to make an interesting, like a leaf pattern. I'm pitching the clay in some areas, and I wanted to have like a leaf shape on that side. We are working with floral patterns, and I thought that a leaf shaped border would look nice for the piece. And then when you are happy with the look of your pieces, And after checking the sides and the back, you can put your pieces in the oven for 50 minutes at the temperature recommended by the polymer clay manufacturer. And then I let the clay cool down, and I've finished the pieces by applying UV resin. And because of the fact that our piece is not really flat, we have applied textured patterns on top, so it is very important to make sure after applying the resin that you don't have gaps inside the resin, and also that you have covered the raised areas as well. I'm telling you this because after applying a layer of resin, and then I put the pendants into under the UV lamp for 10 minutes, and then when I've checked to see the results, they were very beautiful, but I had small gaps in some areas and a small area, raised area, that was not covered, which is why I'm telling you to be very careful, and you'll have very beautiful results when doing so. So you can use these ideas and make very beautiful pieces, and I encourage you to play with the shapes of the stems, to play with the colors. You could use more than 2 colors. I know there are plenty of possibilities. As always, I hope that you like this idea and that you are inspired to create more using polymer clay. Please press the like button if you like the tutorial. Please subscribe if you want to receive more inspiration for your work with clay. And stay tuned for more inspiration for your work with polymer clay.